Something about Mary. Let's play hardball. Good evening, I'm Chris Matthews in Washington. Watergate. Federal marshals have arrested a group of conservative activists in New Orleans for allegedly attempting to wiretap the offices of Democratic Senator Mary Landrieu. The leader of those arrested, James O'Keefe, was the same conservative activist who became a right-wing hero for imitating a pimp at various Acorn offices. He, together with 3 others, were taken into custody after being caught trying to bug the offices of Senator Landrieu, a moderate Democratic lawmaker. They had represented themselves as telephone repairmen. The attempted bugging is a throwback to the 1972 break-in and similar attempted bugging at the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate office complex in Washington. That incident and the attempt to cover it up led to the destruction of Republican President Richard Nixon. We start, however, with the attempted bugging of Democratic Senator Mary Landrieu's office phones in New Orleans. David Corn is a Washington bureau chief from Mother Jones, and Pat Buchanan is an MSNBC political analyst. We've got the facts. 4 arrests, $10,000 bail. These guys are already in red prison jumpsuits, David. They tried to bug, they tried to wiretap, as an old-time term, the wiretap the phones of Mary Landrieu down in New Orleans. This does have a certain redux quality to those of us who grew up in the eyes and the realities of Watergate.
Yeah, for your own guys.
Why is it that this is coming back? Why would anybody try to bug a Democratic senator's offices in this environment?
Well, this is Watergate meets YouTube. I mean, James O'Keefe became a hero to the right, and I'm waiting to see what they're going to say about his latest caper now, when he did these undercover videos that seem to suggest that some people in Acorn were helping, you know, a pimp and his whore. He played the pimp himself. Now, it turned out at the time...
We're watching the...
It turned out at the time that a lot of Acorn offices, or several, came out and said, we threw him out, and that he adulterated some of the tapes. And he caught some Acorn people doing things they shouldn't have, but the right just went wild on this. Acorn lost its contracts, its few, now even, they did 10% federal funding from the U.S. government, lost all that. Big stir. But now, what is the right? What are his sponsors on the right? Fox News, my old conservative friend Andrew Breitbart. What are they going to be saying about the fact that he not just went into an office and pulled a stunt, but he seems to have he has been arrested for a felony.
Well, this is big stuff. Just on the surface of things, that other caper looked a lot more attractive in terms of pastimes than bugging telephones. What is it with the right wing that they have to get into people's telephones?
Well, I think first, if this is true, seems like an absurd act.
Well, the federal marshal arrested these guys. They're already in red prison suits. They're out on $10,000 bail.
But if that's what they're doing, bugging her, the New Orleans office of a United States senator, what in heaven's name do they think they're going to pick up in one of these ridiculous offices that's not even in Washington, D.C.?
Well, what was Liddy trying to find out back in '72? You had the same reaction then. What if grown-up political operatives do this kind of stuff?
Well, what I said is, why would you bug the Democratic National Committee? They all blab their heads off to everybody in sight. It's ridiculous. But I will say this. Look, we're hearing from David. We hope the right wing covers this. I'm sure the right wing will give this a little more coverage than the left wing gave to the Acorn scandal.
Well, we covered all here.
That was a little late.
Listen, I tell you, if there was an office they were going to bug if they wanted to continue in a theme that they started with, it should be David Vitter. You want to go after somebody down in Louisiana who has a known problem, using phones particularly, then you go after David Vitter.
People are just getting disturbed. Everybody's watching this sort of exciting picture of this guy with his pretend prostitute. But here we go. Listen to this. A conservative activist who posed as a pimp to target the community organizing group Acorn. He's also the son of a federal prosecutor from Shreveport. Were among 4 people arrested by the FBI and accused of trying to interfere with phones at Senator Mary Landrieu's office. On Monday, activist James O'Keefe, together with others, showed up claiming to be telephone repairmen. What is this about? And they were picked up. They've already been hit with a $10,000 bail.
Well, there's a serious question here. I mean, we're joking a little bit about it, and that is who else?
Because it's ludicrous.
No, but also, who else knew about it? Was he working in cahoots with any of the bloggers, any of the right-wing groups that have supported him and have given money to his Acorn crusade? I mean, has he talked to any reporters at Fox or any place else?
Let me tell you what to do.
Were they trying to bug something serious?
That's a very good point. Immunize the guys and convict them, and then immunize them and make them testify whether there's higher-ups involved.
Okay.
I mean, that's
what were they trying to find out? Were they trying to connect
that's the key question.
Senator Landrieu to this administration with regard to a deal?
Chris, here's what they're up to. I think, and it's surmise, they must have some kind of inkling, because it looks like such a patently stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
They must have had some kind of inkling that something is going on down there that they can pick up and make themselves bigger and bigger heroes. Now, what is it?
Well, what they're going to, another scenario is that they were going to try to pull some stunt that they needed to tape the phone call in order to make it work. And there are two possibilities. One is they were trying to listen in on a legitimate conversation to get some goods to drop on her, or that they were trying to create news and to make it work on the YouTube, and they needed the audio portion of it as well.
But my suspicion is somebody told them something's going on and you guys can be big heroes, and they were drawn into this. But it's a good question. Who else knew about this? Is this these guys acting as cowboys on their own?
What did the conservative blogosphere know, and when did it know?
Well, it's interesting in these cases where people commit criminal acts. Apparently, this is obviously going to be tried in court. Right. Fair enough. They're not proven guilty yet, but they have been put out on bail. They've already thrown into prison suits on this regard. David Corn, this issue of criminality in the political sphere, we don't get a lot of it, overt criminality like this, like Scooter Libby, the vice president's chief of staff, picked up for 4 felony charges and convicted of all 4. But this is criminal behavior. It's not a joke. It's only ludicrous because it sounds like old-time, what do you call it? Fun politics of the worst kind.
Well, the Nixon people had a term that we can't see on air for it. It was called
dirty tricks.
Well, no, there was even more. Donald Segretti, rat something beginning with an F. And so, but, I mean, we haven't seen an explicit use of this sort of political dirty tricks in a long time. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Let's not be naive. Look, FDR used Hoover to do this. We wiretapped our plane when we campaigned in 1968. Nixon, as soon as he got out of the vice presidency, has his tax returns reviewed. This kind of hardball Johnson and Kennedy and FDR especially used it. There's not hard evidence that Carter did or that Truman did.
But no one at the White House talked about bombing the Brookings Institution.
Let's do the political analysis here. We're going to go on. We've got some other issues tonight. Sure. First of all, it seemed to me that politics turns in about a minute here. First of all, the president was going to face his Waterloo. Now the Republicans are back to Watergate. It is a weird time, Patrick.
Well, but look, this is, from what we know, this sounds like a silly, stupid thing by this guy who keeps...
These are felonies.
Well, yeah, but they're going to... If they convict him and they go to jail, it's not going to have anything to do with national politics unless there's somebody unless Cornyn is
let me tell you, the funny thing about just because somebody is stupid doesn't mean they can't commit a felony. O.J. Simpson is now in prison now for one of the craziest scams we've ever seen, trying to get back his old souvenirs. Yeah, I know.
No, the question that we don't know...
It wasn't exactly thought out, of course.
Yeah, but he had a little bit of a record, too, Chris.
The question that we don't have an answer to yet, because the story just broke, is whether this is a third-rate burglary, which is what they called Watergate at first, or whether it leads to more. At the beginning, Pat's old friends in the Nixon White House said, there's nothing to this.
Well, we do have a headline, and that it's going to be around it will be very viral, I think you were suggesting. This is going to get around, which is these conservative activists who were the coolest guys on the block a few weeks ago because of pretending to be a pimp and a prostitute have now been caught as good old-fashioned Watergate burglars. David Corn, thank you. Thank you, Pat Buchanan, for your expertise.